Okay, so Jagdish, I think we are live. Let's start the session. I would love to see you starting the session, and then I'll take over as
Okay.
host of the session. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of ClarITea Chat. Last week we had the 25th ClarITea Chat with Asha Paulos, and then we thought that this one will be will sort of pull together some learnings and some snippets, and then we will do this. I was discussing with Divya, and she suggested that why not we do this interesting format that she asked me, our experiences, and then we also added a twist to it. I said, you know what, our first guest Vijay Sethi, he has been such a regular part of the audience as well. So why not we get him back here? And as we are discussing the experiences of running ClarITea Chat for 25 weeks, let's also bring in some additional insights, outside in insights from Vijay sir. So great to have you here, both Divya and Vijay, in this interesting format of ClarITea Chat. Divya, you're the host for today for a difference.
Yeah.
You
Thank you
carry
so
the
much.
burden of this show today. So over to you.
Sure.
And
Absolutely. Thank you
yes,
so much. Yeah. Yeah.
and yes, here is the cup of special tea for today.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. So, welcome Jagdish and welcome Mr. Vijay Sethi on
Thank
today's
you.
Clarity Chat show. It's going to be an interesting journey because today's Clarity Chat show is more about taking initiatives and taking them to a mega global scale. So, besides our little chit chats and the rapid fire session that I'm going to have with both of them, I'm also going to take you through the journey of step by step how to start some initiative. Let's say you would be wanting to start your own podcasting or your own business shows or IT shows. How does one go on to start it? And then we'll take Jagdish chat show today as the case story or the case history. Thank you so much, Jagdish, for inviting me as the host, and looking forward to talk to you and Vijay Sethi on the show. So let's start the conversation. First of all, I would love to know how did this idea strike to your mind? Because most of the CXOs I talk to, they feel hesitant. They are full of knowledge, they are full of experience, but when it comes to showcasing their global thought leadership and inviting other leaders to talk, they feel little hesitant. So, how did your journey start? How did the idea come to your mind?
Yeah. So I think, Divya, we are all Hanumans. We underestimate what we can do. And I can say, if I look back 1 year, it was the same thing. Even though a lot of people encourage me to, share my insights and, my experiences, quite a lot of them with 25 years of working. I
Mhm.
always used to hesitate that, will it really add value? Are people going to really read it? So I started small. I started with with text posts and
Yeah.
with learning a little bit of Canva, doing some small designs and all. And then I remember I had a chat with you where you encouraged me to do video posts, which have got better
Mhm.
engagement.
Mhm.
And I started doing that again. I must say that every step of the way, I've been really encouraged by people who have read and who have commented and engaged on my post,
Yeah.
and that has really built up my confidence
Yeah.
to share more.
Yeah.
Then I remember you telling me that why not try LinkedIn Live,
Yeah.
because the videos have been so good,
Yeah.
and I applied for LinkedIn Live. I remember you scaring me that it
It
may
takes
take three
months
months
together.
it takes 3 months to get it approved, so
Yeah.
apply fast. So I applied,
Yeah.
and surprisingly I got an approval within a week.
Yeah.
But then
Surprising.
I think, yeah, but I think then came the big steep wall,
Yeah.
where I procrastinated for about 3 months, and I wanted to be very clear that this is something that I'm doing with solid purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just to gather some more viewers, or just go and chit chat.
Yeah.
So I started working on, that purpose document, those 5 pager slides, and
Yeah.
I then shared it with Vijay sir. I shared it with some of my fellow CIOs, and it connected
Mm-hmm.
somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then this thing started. But stepping back, I think why this uh, theme as like making
Yeah.
finding success with IT.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I actually again sometimes hesitate to say this, but
Mm-hmm.
I've had a near 100% success track record with IT projects.
Amazing.
Now, all flavors, the projects that I've started,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the projects I've inherited, some of which were
Mm-hmm.
really dying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I resurrected them. One of them was like a divisional project, and I then made it enterprise-wide project.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there are some projects, which were deemed successful. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started looking at the business metrics underlying, those projects, and found that no, they were not successful. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually challenged the business leaders, and then got them to do certain things to, like, call it real success. So I've got
Yeah.
all three types of flavors. So
Mm-hmm.
this was really close to my heart, the business value of IT.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I was talking to Vijay Ramachandran, a good friend, and he
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that the needle has moved only from
Mm-hmm.
13% to 17% over last 25 years, that he has been running this survey across 100 plus
Mm-hmm.
organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So only 17% of the technology programs, are positive on ROI. Then I said,
Okay.
no, this is something where I can probably add some value, and not
Mm-hmm.
just alone. There are, like, I have my peers and I have my friends, who believe in this, who can
Mm-hmm.
contribute to this. So
Mm-hmm.
why not drive a initiative which tries to push it up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just to also add to this, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of what is there, in terms of what we see in the technology media, or you can say, the conferences and all, they're all success stories, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody really um, what do you call, brings out the challenges, or
Yeah.
the steep things that we
Mm-hmm.
struggle with as CIOs. And I thought,
Yeah.
why not? It's a nobody's talking about it, so let's talk
Yeah.
about it.
Amazing. So let me quickly summarize what I have captured so far from your conversation. So you started, becoming more active on LinkedIn, and gradually you noticed that people would love to learn from your CIO experiences, and you also started creating videos out of those experiences. And I recall my and yours conversations, when we used to monitor the analytics parts of those posts, and then I used to wonder, my God, you just started your journey, and you already have got your own personal branding established, your own global thought leadership established to a large extent, because audience was engaging highly with you. So you were updating the audience, and then you and me had little conversations on why not start a live show. And you had your own strong beliefs that you spoke just now, that you spoke to some of the peers, and you also discussed with Vijay Sethi ji that there are few things which are never discussed openly, such as the challenges of CIOs and the challenges of business transformation. And you also shared the facts and the data about 17%. So that shook you from within, a sort of that, there has to be a substantial value addition where your previous experience, and not just yours, but also other practitioners' experiences, can be pulled in, and you could mingle them together to bring it to the audience for understanding. Vijayji, you have been through him for last 25 episodes. I would love to ask you, has he been successful in attaining his objective of bringing those CIOs from world across to deliver problem solutions to those challenges that IT or businesses are already facing?
So let's start with the first thing. I think why Jagdish has been successful and why he did it. I'll also quote Robert Frost, kind of
Okay.
the road not taken. So he took a
Mm-hmm.
path which most of the people had not taken, and
Mm-hmm.
that really has made the difference. So it's
Okay.
not the run of the mill thing.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, has he been successful? See, I think let's look at what could be the possible measures of success of such a thing. First
Absolutely.
thing is, has it been sustainable?
Mm.
Was he
Good.
able to sustain it for 25 weeks, week on
Yeah.
week?
Yeah.
Answer is yes, and it's 100%
Absolutely.
marks on that. So that to my mind is the biggest success, because there are a lot of people who may think of starting something. It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy to sustain. It's not easy to really get people coming on as
Mm-hmm.
guests every week, because you
Yeah.
really have to also push people that can you calm down,
Yeah.
and of course
Absolutely.
audience also to come in. That's the
Yeah.
second piece.
Mm-hmm.
Third, from a flexibility part, and sorry, Jagdish, I'm giving all candid feedback. I think
Mm-hmm.
another thing which really held to my mind, Jagdish, is the flexibility piece, because I know earlier it was being done on a Tuesday or some such day, and then based on the feedback, because people were not available, then he ran a poll as to when it should be done, and finally agreed on 5 to 6 p.m. on Saturday. To my
Mm-hmm.
mind, if you have that persistence, you really have that persistence, you do that, and then you're also flexible taking feedback. And the
Mm-hmm.
last piece on this is, while you kind of take all those boxes,
Mm-hmm.
people will come, both the guests and the audience will come if and only if they have an enriching content, if they really find
Absolutely.
value in spending that 1 hour with Jagdish.
Mm.
So,
Absolutely.
so while
Mm-hmm.
a lot of guests are coming in, reality is that the
Mm-hmm.
major value that the guests, all the participants are getting, and even the guests are getting, is because the way Jagdish really coordinates all that, way he does the entire preparation, questioning, because even to elicit responses, you need to
Absolutely.
be really have that kind of experience, so
Yeah.
that you can pinpoint on the issues that the audience is wanting to. So aim over here is not to just talk about the person. So while it
Yeah.
looks like that he's talking about me or the 24 other guests, but the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, while that part is a piece, he's
Mm-hmm.
actually pinpointing the questions on, if when you were doing this particular thing, how did it help, or where did you fail, or what are the learnings. So for
Mm-hmm.
the audience, that learning is there. And when
Yeah.
I see the reactions of participants, I
Mm-hmm.
think to my mind it's a success. So
Yeah.
has he
Absolutely.
been successful?
Yeah.
Absolutely, as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
yes.
Amazing. So let me quickly summarize, Vijayji, for the audience, what has been captured. Yeah. Yeah. Jagdish, you want to say something?
So yeah,
Yeah, Jagdish,
Jagdish,
you want to say something or shall I continue summarizing?
No, no,
your
no.
your
Please
connectivity,
continue,
you
Divya.
lost the connectivity, you lost your connectivity for a second.
Yeah, yeah. For
Okay.
a second,
So,
I'm not.
yeah.
I was only telling Vijay sir that thanks for qualifying in three different ways. Otherwise, people would have thought that just because I invited Vijay sir here,
Yeah. No, he objectively also lined out various points which I'm going to make it very, very clear, and I'm also going to share why is it essential. So, Vijay just now shared that, first parameter of success of any content is sustainability. Definitely, if it is a value adding content, it needs to be sustainable. I remember Vijay and Jagdish, when I started my Value Addition Global show about 2.5 years ago, there were hardly any audience. LinkedIn was not that active. So definitely, I took it through the journey of 2 years. So I could so much relate to it, what it takes to make it so sustainable, especially when we added that, inviting guest after guest, and those guests who can actually add value, they can share real time challenges, and they can also provide some solutions from where the elite audiences can draw their inferences. Then he also shared the flexibility and the agility, the way you conducted your poll. I remember you were discussing with me, Divya, do you think Tuesday is the right time? And I said, yeah, the best idea is to ask the audience, and you immediately adapted to it. So that is one of the biggest quality of a show host, content creator, as well as the leader. Then Vijay also highlighted that persistence is the key. Definitely, Vijayji, kudos to you. I think many people ignore this important aspect for success of their business shows or podcasts, because persistence is absolutely the key. Here, your patience will be tested time and again. And then you also ended up saying that enriching content and value adding stuff which is the key to super success of Jagdish Clarity Chat show. And I've also seen Jagdish, some of the shows I've personally attended as audience with you. So the responses your audiences come up with, the kind of questions they ask you, the kind of thought clarity they share in the show is absolutely amazing. And then finally, Vijay also highlighted that it's about thought leadership, the persona, not just the personality they are talking to. They're also drawing the learnings out of it. Now, my question to both of you is, after these 25 episodes, if someone has to start from scratch, they feel inspired that, okay, Vijay's been through it. He's kind of hand-holding support to Jagdish in all the episodes, giving him objective feedback, and Jagdish has been creating it. So, what are those 3 or 4 steps, according to you both, which they must follow to start and begin their content value addition in any form?
Jagdish, please go ahead.
Yeah. So Divya, as I said, I fretted over this thing because, as Vijay sir said, that people start these initiatives and then after a while they die down. Uh, I was very clear that persistence or that sustenance comes from your own clarity of purpose. If you are doing it for something which is much larger than your own popularity or your own what you call LinkedIn presence and all, then only it will be sustainable. Because it also happens that the audience should be able to connect to that purpose. Your guests should be able to connect to that purpose. So when I actually invite my guests over, we do a prep chat, and one of the first things I do is actually show them that PowerPoint, and I ask them a frank question. Does it connect somewhere with why we should be doing it? And it generally it connects with people, and sometimes people have also added things to it. So then that, I think, brings that alignment, which really brings out the essence in all these discussions. So that is the first thing, the purpose, your own clarity of purpose, the purpose being bigger than any other considerations, practical considerations. That's a must. I think
Yeah.
the
So
second
purpose
thing,
over presence, no?
purpose over
Purpose
presence.
over
Yeah,
presence. Yeah.
that's
Okay.
very, very nicely put. I think the second thing is learning, approaching it as a student. So I had never done any broadcasting before. I was like such a novice, and that's why also it took some time to get started because I wasn't sure and I wasn't confident. Um, so we approached it as a learner. So we learned the tools, and we learned the the audience engagement. Initially, I used to forget engaging the audience, and then it was always what would be an afterthought that at 40th or 45th minute, I would say, "Oh my God, all these comments are waiting here."
Okay.
So
Interesting.
then I remember as a learner, I actually attended a couple of your LinkedIn live shows also, just to learn that, how do you do it well. So, always looking around for learnings. So that's
Yeah.
the second. I think the third thing is continuous improvement. So we have a ritual, in Clarity Chat that after we hit the end broadcast button, everyone stays in the room, including the guests, and you just do a quick TGR TGW. Okay, so which is
Great.
things gone right, things gone wrong. I've written a post about it also, but this is something we do actually. We also do it on a
Nice.
weekly basis. That every Monday when we have a team meeting, we again like just have an open discussion on things gone right, things gone wrong, and that actually improvises the process. I'll give you some examples. One of my clarity chats actually went for 1.5 hours. Okay, and we went back to the root causes, and we found that we had very loose time control. We were like controlling time in the chunks of about 15 to 30 minutes, and then we actually made our questions crisper, and we actually did like 5 to 10 minutes kind of time controls, uh, um, and that has helped. After that, we have overrun primarily because have a bias towards audience questions. I don't want to leave them hanging there,
That's
and
great.
that
Mm-hmm.
generally makes me overrun by at least 5 to 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't overrun by 30 minutes after that.
Mm-hmm.
So purpose, learning, and continuous improvement. So that's what has brought us here.
Okay, so interesting. So before I go ahead and ask Vijay Sethi ji about his observations on the process evolution, I would love to highlight some of the comments here from the audience. And from audience, I would love to ask that what's been your observation on Jagdish show? What did you like most about Clarity Chat? And what did you not like? There must have been instances which you did not particularly gel up with or you did not agree with, so end up sharing that as well. So Sandeep Batra says, full in agreement with Mr. Vijay Sethi, discipline and continuity are the most important constituents of any success story. Amazing. And then Sumit Mishra says, very well said, persistence is the key. Seshu says from Hyderabad. Hi, Seshu from Hyderabad. Thank you so much, Seshu. Would love to know your thoughts on Clarity Chat show. And then Prakash says, very well summarized, Vijayji. Thank you so much. Let me see some more comments. And then Ratnesh Chaurasia says, congratulations, fab and refreshing. Absolutely amazing. And then Chirag Yadav says, congratulations, Jagdish, for completing 25 weeks milestone. Great achievement. Absolutely, Chirag. I strongly believe this 25 weeks consistent achievement is not a small thing. I've been a podcaster myself and I know how difficult is it to maintain that consistency and perseverance. Then Mohit writes, good evening and congratulations for almost half a year of Clarity Chat. Is it half a year, Jagdish? Really, the half year is past. My God, amazing. Okay, so Prakash writes, good evening, Jagdish. Congrats, Jagdish, on completing 25 sessions. Okay, back to you, Vijayji. What's been your observation
Yeah.
about
So I think
the
the question that you
process?
had was if someone had to start, what will be the
Yeah,
4 or 5 things? And I'll
yeah,
just build on what Jagdish said.
sure.
First step, if anyone has to start, is the objective has to be very clear.
Mm-hmm.
What is it in there for the audience? For
Mm-hmm.
example, what Jagdish has said is that I want to give value back on IT. How can audience really take or increase the value from their IT deployments? That's the objective that he's taken, and all the conversations are around that, starting with that 17%, how to make it 18, 20, 40, whatever percentage. So
Mm-hmm.
anyone has to start. The first step is be clear on what is that objective, a single line, at the most 2 lines objective that you are, so that the audience that comes in and even the guests,
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
know as to what they have to talk about rather than the general discussion. That's the first
Yeah.
one. Second is, for anyone who wants to do this, I will say that you first create a mental kind of picture of the entire episode. How will this
Mm-hmm.
episode run? So
Yeah.
let me just think that, okay, I'm calling Jagdish as my guest for this. Next 45 minutes, 1 hour. What am I trying to do? So create a mental picture, both positives, negative, what could happen, what are the do's, don'ts. So create a full mental picture of the entire thing. The third, I would say, is a plan for next 5 to 6 weeks at all times, which would
Mm-hmm.
mean that, okay, it's not that I'm planning this Saturday for, or this week for next Saturday. Okay, next week I can call Divya. Next, then I'll see who should be the next person. No. At least
Yeah.
plan for 5 to 6 weeks, including contingency, that if someone really cannot attend for a particular weeks, you know that someone else can come in. So plan for
Yeah.
those 5 to 6 weeks. That will also ensure sustainability of the entire thing or the continuity of it. Otherwise, one could fall flat. The
Mm-hmm.
fourth point I'll say is that take all the feedback very, very seriously. And
Absolutely.
a lot of people take only the positive feedback, but
Mm-hmm.
as Jagdish also rightly said, that critically analyze as to what could be improved further. So
Yeah.
take that feedback, see what can be improved further, what changes, whether it is in the format, whether it is in time, whether it is in the kind of guests that are coming in, any such thing. So take that feedback and do it. And the last point I'll say is, while you're doing it, don't make kind of perfect the enemy of good. So don't think that I have to give the best thing on earth, and while you're just planning, and you actually miss out the entire thing. Let it evolve over a period of time, and maybe then it becomes perfect over a period of time, or even if it doesn't become perfect, I think if it is great, I'm happy. Let it not be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Some of the key highlights that you have already shared, I would love to reinstate because if I were to give this answer to the audience, having been a podcaster for a long time now, I personally believe that what Jagdish started with, like purpose over presence, is very, very important. Second thing, you also highlighted that, having a plan in place is absolutely amazing because if you do not have a plan even about purpose, you'll be lost. Maybe one or two episodes you'll end up doing this, but then later on you'll realize, "Acha, what next should I do then? Who should I invite?" I've also seen Vijay and Jagdish that, when we have a repository of guests for next 3 to 4 months, we are at peace as host of the shows. So this creates a lot of clarity for you that, okay, next month the theme would look like this, and the next to next month it would look like this. So it always makes a great case to have 3 or 4 months of planning in hand, at the same time speaking to guests, finding out the right set of people. Unfortunately, most of the people are not that great and effective in networking. It makes a great case to learn how to effectively do global networking, whether you are doing a show of HR or show of manufacturing or show of IT. You will have people from all over the world, and you could possibly bring in that benchmarkable practices from across the globe. So this is what. Now, before I go ahead, I would love to see Vinay sharing what guests are talking about this show, Jagdish. Vijay has spoken about it. You have spoken about it. I've spoken about it. We have shown some of the comments here. Let's see what guests who came for the show are talking about this show. Okay, so Vinay, are you all set? Shall we see?
It was quite an experience meeting Jagdish on LinkedIn and then having a private, very deep conversation with him about both our private and professional experience, finding some common grounds, some areas where we had been in similar places or industries, having roles which brought us together, and that was great reflection for me. And then we brought it to the ClarITea Chat and talked about it. And there I had really the opportunity to bring back some memories, find some things I had learned over time. And I was able to share them with the audience. And looking at the feedback I had received there, it looks like it resonated with many of them. So I hope it was useful not only for me to remember, to reflect, but also for the audience to learn something new. So looking forward to continue the conversation sometime. It was great experience, Jagdish. Thanks for that. Bye-bye.
Wow, amazing. Salute to you, Jagdish, and to your team. Meanwhile, I have some very interesting comments here, and I would love to bring that comment before we go ahead. Seshu says, I would like to know what is the long-term strategy of ClarITea Chat? Say, how about 20th episode going to be? Amazing, amazing, interesting question.
200th episode, wow. Yeah, I mean, as I keep talking to the CIOs and business leaders around here, there's like so much of value in experiences. And when if you remember that second slide of my purpose deck, which says that it's a very nascent management area, and therefore there's not much published or formal knowledge around it, and there's a lot in the heads of the people. As I do these ClarITea chats, that kind of becomes stronger and stronger. So Seshu, in terms of, as long as the show keeps adding value to all of you, I'll be there. Okay. I can't say what the format will be, what the process will be, because it will evolve. But there are a few things I want to do in due course of time. So number one is to have some theme-based discussions. Like for example, getting a few people to, let's say, in a sort of a panel kind of format, let's say talk about like, how to do a successful cloud migration, or like, what kind of challenges do you come across, as you're trying to adopt AI, so those kind of like, theme-based conversations. As of now, they are a little personality driven, and we try to bring out the learnings from their personal experiences, but it could, go on to a different direction. The second is, it is still, the guests are still a lot more from the India geography. In fact, I would really love to, see that variation, let's say, how does it, learn across geography. So,
Absolutely.
when I was a CIO, I was actually looking up beyond India to learn,
True.
some of the management practices and all of that. The same thing, we could do here. I would like to bring in, CIOs from, from other continents as well, other
Yeah.
continents and geographies as well. So
Yeah.
those are there. But, Seshu, the answer to your question is, as long as you guys are watching the show, as long as you are engaging, commenting, the show will be there.
Interesting, inspiring, and I clearly remember, when I invited couple of people, started inviting couple of people for Value Addition Global Show from abroad. My audiences used to ask, oh, how do you get such people for business growth or for personal growth queries? How do you land up with such people? So the basic idea is, if you're planning to start your own show, it always makes an interesting case to network with people abroad, and LinkedIn is one of the best ways to do that. If you send them an invite with a clear purpose, why do you want to get connected to them, they would be responding to it. And I've seen 85% of success rate. Now we have another comment here, Jagdish, which says Sarita Bhatt is sharing. Jagdish, I feel, is very engaging with his guests as well as audience, and is very candid. We are able to relate with the talks because of that. Amazing, amazing. Let's see some other comments. Another LinkedIn user, I think Sat, says Jagdish has always been approachable and he is always in learning mode and makes his content engaging. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so now let's proceed ahead. My next question is from Vijay, and I would love to see him answering. You have been engaging on his show as audience as well. Which one did you find most engaging? Where did you find most activity happening, and what was the reason behind?
No, I think which one is the most engaging? I think it will be difficult for me to answer. It's like deciding as to which kid of yours is a better.
Okay,
So
which ones?
yeah. So no, that makes even more difficult. So no,
Okay.
I would say that what I've seen is that over a period of time. So first few sessions preps were the audience engagement was less, and as Jagdish also put it, but over a period of time, the audience engagement has increased a lot, and there are twofold two reasons as I see. Number one, of course, what Jagdish said, that he is also now consciously working towards increasing. But
Mm-hmm.
second piece also is that when audience also gets hooked on to a particular concept. So,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a regular audience. So if actually you
Mm-hmm.
see audience, maybe 40, 50, 60% of the audience is a very regular audience. So they are also
Mm-hmm.
learning and gaining a lot out of this entire thing. And that's where our own confidence on asking questions goes up, because
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people I have seen is even they hesitate asking questions, but they're not too sure as to how the end result would be. But one of the points which was just, I think, said by Sarita also, that when you get a candid response to many of these, so even
Mm-hmm.
if the response is something which you are not expecting, but you know
Yeah.
that the other guy is being very honest in the response, the engagement levels automatically go up. Number one.
Shoot up. Yeah.
Number two, when
Mm-hmm.
you feel that the person who's on the other end, say if
Mm-hmm.
on the screen three of us are there, and the audience
Mm-hmm.
feels that if these guys are not here just about themselves, but they are willing to kind of empathize with us as to what the issues we are facing and answering from that perspective, rather than
Mm-hmm.
just giving a theoretical gyan and blah blah blah, they'll say that
Mm-hmm.
okay, the engagement levels would automatically go. And I have seen that, especially in those episodes, I'll not really name a particular episode, it doesn't look nice, but in some of those episodes where the discussions have been more candid rather than just about the gyan piece
Mm-hmm.
from the guest perspective, the
Mm-hmm.
engagement levels you can actually see shooting up.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. Amazing. So before I proceed ahead and I ask Jagdish a set of more questions, here is a comment. Praveen Kishore says this show is unique in many ways. It connects, add value and knowledge on variety of subjects with IT as umbrella. There's a lot of thought, clarity and direction to conversation, bringing out right messages. Do you really think, Jagdish, that you have been able to successfully do that, or you still feel that no, perhaps I need to add even more value?
It's a it's a journey, Divya. So yeah, we could add more value. In fact, when I have the prep chat with my guests about a week or 2 weeks before, the reason for having the prep chat is very simple. I mean, let's say I and Vijay, we could like talk for 3 hours and and we would not be done yet. I mean, that's number of things we have to share, right? So, but in a 1 hour window, how can we pack these conversations into a very very enriching kind of this thing? वो they say ना वो शक्कर का बक्खर बनाते हैं, तो like how do you make that? So some of my these prep chats have gone on for 2 hours, and at the end of it, I do two things. One is that I identify some themes, about 5 to 7 themes, which come out very clearly in someone's journey. Okay,
True.
and these are unique for each and every guest, and then we frame questions around those themes, with the experiences they have shared. So while I'm asking that question, that comment that came, that I'm asking the questions which is a more personal in nature, but the answer is something which is very targeted in terms of like adding value to the audience. So there's a little bit of a studied thought process and a management process that goes behind that, and I think that's what makes it the way it is. So it's not accidental. That's all I can say.
It's not a
Amazing. And I've personally seen, Jagdish, you practicing and then developing the processes of the Clarity Chat itself so much. And I'm amazed to see the efforts that you put in individually. One thing is that setting up your teams, they taking care of everything. Another is you engaging yourself into getting involved into that concrete process. Now we have another interesting comment which says, Arminda Singh is saying, Clarity Chat is the best thing to happen to enterprise IT community. There is so much to learn, catch up, and ponder over.
And
Amazing. Such comments.
Amrinder is the most regular. I guess he would be all 26 out of
Salute.
26. If I'm not, yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Salute to him. And Arminda, stay tuned. I believe when you engage on such IT shows, and if you are part of this IT industry, you will reap rewards in times to come. I mean, I can only predict that, because when you end up engaging with the thought industry leaders and adding your value to in form of comments, someone ultimately notices your thought leadership too. So that's how Gary V, the mentor of so many of us, has always insisted that these shows or the posts or the articles are the best way to contribute your thought leadership when you're actually growing up that leadership ladder. So, Vijayji, I would love to ask you: do you think there were some low moments for Jagdish in the show also? There had been some times when you noticed that Jagdish's energy was not that up to the mark, or he wasn't perhaps that well prepared. He could have done well, and then I'll move on to Jagdish later. Yeah.
I think the only low points to my mind are when he faces those things which are beyond his control. So if there are connectivity issues, there are times when the connection is not good. For example, over last 10-15 minutes, we saw that for a few seconds there was an issue. And I remember a couple of instances where he faced, even in the last chat, there were major issues. In another earlier chat with Manish, there were issues. So even if it's for 1 minute, even if it's 30 seconds, for the person who is hosting, it actually kind of puts that person in too much of stress. So that's so when he comes back, one can figure out that for a few seconds he's still wanting to come back to terms and feeling a bit embarrassed as to why did it really happen, how could it happen to me, and Of
Yeah.
course, he always has a plan. As he says, I have my BCP ready, plan A, B, C, D. So my first mobile, then second mobile will take over the third, fourth. So there are times when it does take time for one
Yeah.
connectivity to a second
Absolutely.
connectivity. So that's the only thing which I personally feel when I see him bit low for few seconds just after when he comes back. So otherwise, his preparations are superb.
Amazing. So, Jagdish, back to you. Which were those episodes, if you could open up, where you felt slightly kind of pissed off or not absolutely ready? Maybe some personal circumstances had happened. I remember you were going through some family emergencies also. So, if you could throw light so that it makes everyone aware that in process of creating such shows, you will likely have some low moments as well. Back to you.
Yeah. So Divya, I actually lost one of my most regular audience of ClarITea Chat. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother. So we started. So he was fighting cancer, and he was with us in Mumbai itself. And so the ClarITea Chat started when he was around. This was in March. And so it will so happen that I will be in my bedroom on my work desk running the ClarITea Chat, and he would be in the drawing room watching the whole thing. And then afterwards, I will go to him and ask him how was it, and he will provide his critique and all that, right? So well, I think he lost the battle in July, and I remember when he last went to the hospital and didn't come back. That was a Saturday, and I actually rushed back. We took him there, hospitalized him, and then my wife remained there, and I actually rushed back to do my ClarITea Chat. And then I think we lost him on Tuesday or Wednesday. And we went to Baroda, so where he's, where basically all the last rites and everything was done. And that was, I think, one week when, I was like, I asked people, should we really do the ClarITea Chat this week? And we already had the guest who was already, if I remember, it was Kalpana, if I'm correct. Yeah. And it was like, then we said, all it takes is an hour, right? All it takes is an hour and a half, and there were enough people around to kind of take care of things. So I actually went to my team member Sumit's house, who was in Baroda, and we did a sort of a quick and dirty setup around. We just asked everyone to switch off their mobiles just to make sure that the Wi-Fi is available. And we actually did that. So I think that was like 1 week when it was like, oh my God, this may not happen, because I was not in a mental state, and the family was not in that state. There was no, that was the last thing on anybody's mind. But once that happened, then it was like, whatever happens, we can do that. We can do this. And I would say that, somewhere Bipin, my brother-in-law, who's no more with us, he kind of remains as one of the, sort of back of the mind inspirations for us.
Wow.
So there have been other times, then I think once you have passed through that, everything else is nothing can get worse than that. So, when I was in, there was a Saturday we took off and on a vacation, and we landed up in Ganpati Pule. That was off the grid. The place advertised itself as off the grid.
Okay.
So there was no mobile connectivity. There was no Wi-Fi connectivity. So the manager opened his own house for me, which had got a 5 Mbps, connection. There were no work table or chair. So I actually piled up a couple of pillows on his bed, sat on a chair, and I did that. And I was really very anxious that day because this was with Rajesh Uppal. Okay. But thankfully, the network behaved very well. And we had, I think, a record audience that particular ClarITea. I remember about 60 to 70 people joined that one.
Okay.
And thankfully, no disruption except that the sunlight faded and I was like looking like a booth.
Okay. So primarily, I get some insights out of it that it is essential to realize and being aware that there will be low moments because of whatever reasons. there will be instances when there will be technical issues, and at the back of your mind you will be occupied with those technical issues, resolving them. And there also, I have seen, Jagdish, there are also instances that despite all the preparations beforehand, despite all the scripts that you prepare with your guest, in the live shows, sometimes you can get shock of your life, because the show goes kind of haywire, in the sense that what was supposed to be discussed doesn't get discussed, and either you don't make sense, or guest doesn't make sense, or the environment during that time doesn't make sense. But despite all that, for live shows, I have personally observed that you got to be ready for such circumstances as well. These things will happen, not to take to the heart, and just move on. That's the only lesson. So, somewhat related to this, I've got another comment here which I would like to highlight. Sandeep Batra says, it's really insightful to know the thought process, Jagdish. How do you connect the learning experiences of the guest with the formulation of your question for the benefit of audience? So that's what I was saying, that, despite knowing learning experiences, creating your questions, despite things can go differently. So what's your observation? How do you end up doing this?
Uh, so as I said, I have this. So I actually take very detailed notes. I know typing, so when my guest is talking, I just keep taking running notes, and then I identify some dominant themes. Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, uh, for someone it would be communication. For someone it would be solving problems. Like for example, I remember the recent one, last episode. So, Asha had some 3 or 4 instances where she started with the problem in mind. Okay. And she was like, hell-bent that I have to find the technology or the data to solve that problem. For one of them, she actually went all the way to like getting access to a NASA database to find out, where are the emissions greatest, and then identifying opportunities from there. So, like solving problems through technology and data became a very, dominant theme there. So
Mm-hmm.
like that, for someone it is user experience. For Anjani, it was like, user experience in analytics itself. So I identify these 5 or 6 themes, and then what I do is, once the themes are there and the conversations are there, then it becomes very easy to sort of ask a question which brings out that particular theme in a particular context. As we are going through the career journeys of people, the questions are sequenced according to the career journey, but they are
Mm-hmm.
intended to bring out a particular theme that we identified in the prep chat.
Okay. Inspiring.
I'll just add to that.
Yeah, Vijay. Yeah.
Having known Jagdish for I don't even remember how many years, having worked with him on so many projects that we did as part of SIAM and others. So that is one what he said. Another, to Sandeep, to answer your question, why Jagdish is able to do all that and ask the right questions which audience wants, is because when he was actually handling those projects as at Tata Motors primarily, and then G, I had less interaction. With Tata Motors, I had a lot of interactions with him. He was actually doing things as someone who is running the show hands-on. So he was not a hands-off manager. So he knew as to what the users want, what the users expect, what the IT team expects, IT team at various levels, what are they wanting, what kind of issues they face. So it was pure practical things that he used to do in all those projects that we used to do together. So that's where I think when now he asks question, he can relate back to people at various levels, be it users, be it middle level managers, or even senior level managers, and that really gives a lot of edge to Jagdish.
Inspiring. I think both of you know each other so well. The SWOT analysis is done tremendously well among between you two. So now it's your turn to ask me the question, reverse question, and then we'll finally see one of the guests' review on the show. And with your insights, both of you's insights, we'll end the show. Yeah, back to you. What kind of question do you have for me today?
Yeah. So Divya, really curious that you yourself host live shows, and you also are a guest on other live shows. So if I have to ask you one question, it is like how do we fit with respect to the other benchmarks, and what are some of the ideas that you can give us to add, more richness to ClarITea Chat.
Inspiring. So I've seen a large number of podcasts, the video podcast, live podcast, and then the audio podcast as well. Jagdish, I personally believe that yours is a technical kind of a show. Even if it is business transformation, the audience is very specific. When it comes to growth shows like, psychological based shows, or the general motivation or story based shows, the audience is slightly different. Audience comes with a different mindset. So I personally believe the way you have been conducting your show, engaging audience in a technical subject like IT, kudos to you. It's not that easy to make it sound easy for them. So you're doing pretty well in terms of engaging audiences, bringing different kinds of guests on the show. It's more of a problem solving show, I personally believe, rather than the case story or the personal story show. So that's the exclusivity about ClarITea Chat. Also, I strongly believe, and I think I've already spoken to you a couple of times, that audience will also benefit because you have, Vijay just now highlighted, you are an executioner, you execute, you have executed. So I think if you bring in those parameters of management and leadership into business transformation, into IT in your show through these guests, that will also be amazing. What's your observation on this, Vijay, what I have shared with Jagdish? What's your thought
No,
on
I
this?
think what you said is right. Only minor change I would say is that when he talks about technology, it's not just at the operational level, but some of the discussions are also strategic level. So in some of
Absolutely.
the guest chats, I've seen that it's not just about one level, but it actually goes to strategic level. That's the only minor change I'll say in what you said. But otherwise, your observations were spot on.
Okay, thank you so much. And back
Yeah.
to you, Vijayji. What's your question for me
I
today?
actually wanted to ask some similar question as to what changes could be brought into what Jagdish is doing, but I'll just add one part based on whatever feedback I had given to Jagdish yesterday. For is so I know one of our friends asked for 200th episode. I asked for 250th episode yesterday to him. So the question to you would be that now since Jagdish has done 25 shows, going forward, say let's go to 50th show or 75th show, 200th show would be 4 years down the line.
Mhm.
But what, according to you, how the entire trend is changing and what changes can be brought into the format of this show?
Hmm. Absolutely. So I strongly believe nowadays again hybrid format has come into the picture in the sense that there are some online interactions and they are offline as well. So since I understand Jagdish is in Mumbai and Pune and he's also traveling abroad, he's going to Uzbekistan. So I personally feel that with the kind of videography skills that he has acquired over a period of time, he can always get into that mode of recording those shows also. Sometimes it's not just possible to invite guests on live shows, let's say Jagdish ends up talking to one of the Uzbekistan's startup guy, and he asks various questions related to IT and the strategy part and the business transformation. And I think he can get it recorded through one of his team members. So this kind of format that you are highlighting, Vijayji, like what are the trends, is really in. So why limit your value addition to just a live format or just an online format? And I think Jagdish is agile enough to adjust to the new trends in this industry. And I also propose strongly that Jagdish is now getting into that. He should start a podcast of his own, which he has already initiated. So that kind of podcast will not just be limited to this live show. He can also add on a lot of stuff, a lot of things like master classes, like interacting with some other people, and then sharing their experiences on the podcast. So this is what I foresee. So when Jagdish would be coming up, maybe after 2 years on 250th episode, that would be an amalgamation of live as well as pre-recorded sessions, adding tons of value from across the world. So back to you, Vijay. Do you think this is
Fantastic.
perceivable and doable?
Absolutely. Knowing Jagdish, it's doable.
Yeah, Jagdish, what's your observation on this?
Thank you. Yeah, that puts a lot of burden on my shoulders though of expectations. But my personal response to that would be like, take it one at a time. We never, when we started, we never thought that, we'll do 25, 50 or 100. It was like, do one at a time, find somebody who can add value, dig into the network, reach out to people. I've had like, I would say 70% of the people have said yes, but 30% of the people have also not said yes, or they have delayed. But that's part of the whole thing. People are busy. I mean, not
Yeah.
everybody has time for a very involved process like this.
Yeah.
So as long as I keep getting the guests, and as long as I think that there's value to be added and there's something to talk about, not just blabber.
Yeah,
Keep doing it
absolutely.
one at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, over to you both. I think what is the last message that you would love to convey, a deep insight for the audience here today? Have you achieved the purpose of Clarity Chat Show? And what is that strong message that you want to convey to audiences?
Let me start, and then we'll have
Sure.
Jagdish having the last word as the author of this entire thing. So my view would be as follows. Number one, compliments to Jagdish for sustaining it for 25, and we'll see it you going strong on 200th and 250th thing. From an audience perspective, see, one of the key things, as Jagdish rightly put, is that from an CIO or even head of IT or even at IT manager, one of the key objectives is how do we deliver value to the business? Any IT spend, even if we spend 1 rupee, can the business get 2 rupees, 5 rupees, 10 rupees out of this? So we need to ensure that the business gets value. And all these chats, that Clarity chats that Jagdish is doing, are aimed at enhancing the value that IT brings. So my request to each one of you would be that take those learnings, apply those learnings back into your own organizations. And if you face any challenges, come back, ask more questions, whether to Jagdish or to the next guest who's coming in, and ensure that you deliver value back to your business. And moment you do that, you are also delivering a lot of value to yourself, because it's about you, it's about your organization. Jagdish is really actually giving back to the society with all the experiences that he has. Compliments
Yeah.
to Jagdish once again.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much. Yeah. Jagdish, back to you. The
Yeah.
final thought. Yeah.
I would only say a few things. One is that I again like go back to June first week, and how we started accidentally, how we went live accidentally. We were just trying to test whether the LinkedIn live is still active for us or not, and we went live, and suddenly we had the 5 to 10 minute testing actually became a 37-minute live chat.
Yeah.
And then next week, then we couldn't go back. So then next week Vijay came, and I believe 8th of June, and I
Mm-hmm.
think since then it has sustained. So just a few things. One is that there's a Hanuman within each one of us. We don't know our own powers.
True.
Even now, having done 25 of these and having a good lineup, at
Mm-hmm.
least for till middle of January, I still feel that I still feel sometimes anxious, sometimes inadequate. But that's how
Mm-hmm.
we are as human beings. That we will never feel the most adequate, and we just need to do. We just need to act, take the first step, and then keep learning.
Yeah.
Second thing is, like, from the audience, I must say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I said this last time also. It's the audience, which keep this show going. If nobody was joining this, we wouldn't be doing this. If nobody was asking questions, I won't just ask questions to the guest just for the heck of it, right?
True.
So the entire Clarity Chat show is there for all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hesitate, ask questions. I have heard it so many times, people saying that there are no dumb questions. In fact, the simplest questions are the most powerful questions. So please do ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that we want to do, which again, it's a question of time, resources, skills available, and various other things that we want to also capture. All the knowledge that has been generated as part of all these almost 30-35 hours of recordings.
Mm-hmm.
We want to kind of slice and dice it in terms of value. So one part of that is like, making it more consumable in the form of podcasts, which will start bringing out sometime soon. But yeah, I think now this is something which I feel, and with all your, engagement and comments, I feel that it's adding value. So as long as it does, we'll do that. And looking forward to, the same love, support, and engagement on this.
Thank you so much, Jagdish, and thank you so much, Vijay, for having come on the show. And I will request Vinay, our team member, to end the show with one of the guests' messages for everyone. How did they find coming on the show, and then having discussions with Jagdish, and what value addition was done for him indeed. So, Jagdish, shall we ask Vinay to take over?
Yeah, Vinay, please play the video. Chat, welcome over a cup of tea. So what's the purpose of the ClarITea Chat? Our friend Vijay Ramachandran has been researching this subject for 25 years now. 83% of IT programs fail to deliver the intended ROI, and management of IT is an nascent function. There's a huge amount of focus on sales and marketing, informal chats on real questions in IT management and careers.
Why is the conflict? Conflict is because if the project succeeds, who gets the credit? If the project fails, who gets the blame? That's the only conflict, nothing else. You have to learn. If you fail fast, fail cheap, but learn. Don't repeat the same mistake again and move on. And do it much better next time.
Manish, when you take an approval, whether you take an approval of 2 crores or you take an approval of 50 crores, the same process. And you will be asked the same questions. You'll have to explain the same logic. So don't go for asking for 2 crores, ask for 50 crores.
The single largest reason that IT projects so-called fail to deliver the results is people. People not accepting whatever had been built for them. You get change done by making people part of that change.
When you follow the essential rightness, sometimes you have to fight against some resistance, and some of them you have to accept. I mean, each organization is different, and sometimes you need to accept that things are how they are and you can't change everything. But there are those where you really need to take that stand.
And I went into systems analysis and design because I basically wanted to learn technology more from solving business problems and re-engineering processes so that technology is best used.
Will it stand the test of time? Will it scale up to where the business will scale up after 5 years?
I don't think ROI is relevant today. We never discussed ROI. We would always discuss impact to business.
When leaders trust you, they might not trust you the capability that you possess. They always trust you the energy and the eyes, that the honesty in your eyes, because that's what they see.
You need more problem finders today than problem solvers. You need to be playing the role of an anthropologist today. An anthropologist who goes, he's a guy who studies tribes and the lifestyles and so on, right?
So you don't really have to compete for a share of pie. You really build the entire pie. You expand the pie together. It's a game of collaboration. You, being the custodian of technology, are not going to use technology to help somebody politically against them, either by providing information or by designing the process in that way. So here that mindset is very important, that we are the custodians of systems and information, and we can't let people play political games with it.
As IT leaders, we are the one who connect with people using technology. You got it? Our network, every PC, every laptop, iPhone device is connected with the people for information flow. But are we really connecting with people as human beings? That's more important. So that's where I put a lot of effort in building that relationship. Whatever technology we can put, but if the people are not aligned, If the people are not able to use the system or adapt to the system, and there is no point in creating any success on technology.
There's a huge tendency of companies, or for that matter, within companies or functions, to say, I am unique. Jagdish, I've worked across industries and I have clients today across industries. It is not funny. Everyone believes they are unique. And I can tell you, I can bet my reputation. There is no industry that I find as unique. There are nuances, but nothing is unique.
So you have to be grounded. You have to understand that, you might know a lot on certain things, but there are others who know more on certain areas.
It's not about the technologies. It's not about the tools. It's about the underlying processes. It's about the way in which work gets done. And it's always a great opportunity to reimagine your system, reimagine your world.
You are supposed to evolve from a manager to a leader, but a lot of people basically become leaders but remain managers in their style.
If you're making a change, if you're trying to get into a new software, making a changes, get the user involved in your change management cycle.
To me, the ecosystem is not just about our team and our organization, right? So it's important that we take the partners along, and there is a reason why there's a difference between the word vendor and a partner. And if you're really calling somebody partner, it's really they understand, they empathize the problem, and they are with us in the journey. But to me, how I leverage is really building that ecosystem of partners that absolutely relate and making sure they understand what it is for us to win, and in the process they win as well.
Making a new IT system is 50% of task. Rest 50% is your change drive, which can do that and all. Then only you can really achieve what we are looking forward to.
Data, I'm sure you all have heard data is the new oil. But if you don't refine the oil and distribute, oil has no use.
If you have to digitally transform something, you need to understand how it works today. And what are the challenges which exist in today's ecosystem that you want to solve in the destination state?
The second good learning was to really have a common goal. In case we have partners or we are the the team members who are working towards different goals, we can never achieve any of the goals.
I recruited 35 people without knowing SAP Oracle with my just. What I need is leadership and ability to learn and a good attitude.
Second thing is you got to decide that the people who are going to jump this have the heart to do this.
How do you transition? How do effective transition happen? You have to keep the employee in the center of the whole spectrum when companies are transforming. And that experience really helped me be very successful with people and the whole employee growth and, be a much better people leader.